Getting ready for, let's see, the live. Click in here, make sure I'm up, make sure my mic isn't muted, make sure the audio works. Can we hear me? Boop. There we go, check, check, check. Gonna do a thing, gonna make sure the people can hear me. So apparently, as many things go with computers, you know, sometimes I'll see people say, oh, I can't hear you. There's so many different audio levels on your computer. If you're watching on your phone, that's pretty easy. You usually just got the one. Okay, yes, it looks like I can be heard this time. But when you've got computers, you know, sometimes it's your speaker volume, then sometimes it's the actual volume on here, and sometimes that thing is muted too, and sometimes there's even like a third program that might use the volume. And in our case, there's about 100 of those, and I think the one that sent it out over the air was muted, or over the internet was muted. Digital guy, Ronaldo, does great work. He could hear me just fine, but apparently you guys couldn't. So it took a second, but we figured it out. Troubleshooting. All right. All right, so it seems like, yes, 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 everyone can hear me. All right, then we can start. So welcome, Pine Belt. As usual, trying to do a Facebook Live just about every day. I might not get all of them when, especially if I'm side project or something going on. But today we also have some potential strong weather moving in, so it's especially important. It's not a first alert weather day or anything, so don't panic. But we are going to see some potentially strong storms. I would say we at least are guaranteed some windy ones, and then anything else is just highly conditional, as we'll talk about here in just a moment. So I've got the backdrop here with a nice little shelf cloud on it. That's very likely what we'll see moving into the area right around lunchtime. I would say really a little after, unless you're on our extreme western end of the Pine Belt, over there by Lawrence and Walthall and Simpson County. So as things start to get going, you may look a little scary, but I still don't expect we'll see too much going on with that. So let's start here with a quick update. Somebody else says they lost sound. Up. Did we lose it? Did we lose it? Let me make a little face here. I'm going to go, let's see, where's that one where it's like, it's just got his eyes closed, like he's just had enough. There it is. That's the one. There we go. Check, 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 check. Okay, people can hear him. All right. Yeah, that's what I was saying at the beginning. You know, sometimes when I see like an audio issue, I'm like, well, maybe it's just you don't have all 90 dials on your computer or whatever turned up. But from what I can tell, it is working. So we'll go ahead and start. We're heading into a more summer-like pattern, warm and humid, especially at the start of the week. It will get slightly, but not even really worth mentioning, slightly less humid in the days ahead. And it'll also really warm up once this rain is finished. So a hot and humid middle of the week, but again, I mean, the humidity's barely noticeably going to drop, with a couple of stormy days in there, with today being one of those days. So you can see here the severe threat breakdown has changed, which is very good news for us. A moment this morning during the updates, it had a little bit of that level 1 on tornado and much less of that on the hail. So now it's just wind, which is right in line with what I was talking about all sunrise show long, that I don't expect we would see anything significant, but it is going to look scary and be pretty windy. Anything more than that was pretty much a long shot, but as we know in the Pine Belt and really South Mississippi, really the entire Southeast in general, we have most of the ingredients for storms on any given day, so we just kind of have to add some little bits of things sometimes, and that's why we can have storms overachieve when we really don't expect them to, and they honestly shouldn't overachieve. A lot of times we still see that. So anyway, looking outside right now at Laurel Ford and Laurel, it's warmed a good 5 to 6 degrees above where it was at its coolest this morning, which was down into the mid-60s. It's just pretty warm. You see no rain having fallen there. We did have some showers in the area yesterday, so it seems like it missed Laurel, or at least wasn't strong enough to leave anything measurable. Winds have picked up to about 10 miles per hour. I imagine we could see some gusts upwards of severe strength, which is about 50-ish on the low end. But that, again, is going to be pretty rare as this moves through. Circle C Tractor in Waynesboro was one of the coolest areas, and that has since bumped up a bit. You see no rain having fallen there either. Ellisville was reporting 1/100th of an inch at Jones College, which has also bounced back into the low to mid 70s already. And it was Columbia that had the most, upwards of 1/4 of an inch having fallen in the last 24 hours. And you can certainly see the parking lot here at Walton Massey Ford is a bit on the damp side. But not so much so. So it really seems like the south and the eastern area of the Pine Belt got the most of it. So for today, we're already gray and cloudy, as you saw on all of those sky cams. And you see we're going to stay that way up until about lunchtime, and I would say shortly after that, we'll start seeing this moving in. They may have moved the timing on me with the latest update, but I've been saying upwards of about 2 to 6 is our window for if we're going to get a strong storm. That's when it's going to be. Really looking at about 4 o'clock is really when that's going to happen for the Hattiesburg area, just for a timing location. It'll be a little bit earlier off to the west, a little bit later off towards the east, and then starts tapering off pretty quickly as we head past sunset to bring us some light showers. So as we take a look at the rain chances for the next 24 hours, you can see that time frame kind of lines up with that right around 4 o'clock. Then we'll start to taper down. It looks like right around the 2 o'clock in the morning, we could see another shower pop up, but nothing's really going to last past about sunrise. And then it'll really taper off into a pretty nice Tuesday, or at least a nice end to Tuesday there. So here's what it looks like right now. You can see that line is really falling apart. It doesn't have much of a severe history, though I do believe it tried to produce a tornado somewhere off in southeastern Louisiana on its way in, but is really broken down, and you can kind of see how it's starting to shift here. There's either likely a bowing segment here or a little mezzo low trying to set up, and that's kind of broken up the line, and that just messes with storms organization. And if storms are like me, they get a little scattered. Organization is key with that. So they start losing their oomph, which is a very technical meteorological term. So as we move into the hour-by-hour futurecast here, I've picked this model because it's kind of the strongest out of all of them, and it's seemingly picked up on what they're seeing. With this line starting to move in at 1 o'clock, 1:30, you're seeing it on the northern edge, with the backside kind of having stalled a bit as it's trying to wrap around and create that low. Eventually that comes through. The bulk of the energy will be down towards the south. So that's where, if something's going to happen, I've been talking about all morning, I expect it to happen there, but you still can't quite rule it out, especially for just some windy storms as that passes through. Right around 5:30, you see it kind of right in the middle of the Pine Belt there, shortly after that 4 o'clock time frame, and then we're just talking rain from that point as it starts to taper off. By 8 o'clock, you can see most of it's left the area, and we just have some lingering activity there that could stick around, but largely will be very conditional as we head through the night. You can kind of see it flaring up again as we head towards sunrise to the east of us as it starts to gain a little bit more strength in the Mobile area. So looking here at the significant tornado parameter, I had this on here just to, and it kind of messed up on me there where it didn't pause. But at no point did it really go above this little misty kindness, which is the absolute lowest level. The significant tornado parameter is picking up on wind shear. It's picking up on a couple of lots of things that I don't really mention on a day-to-day basis. So you might hear about them in our Weather Focus show, of which we'll have one of those today at 3 p.m. Things like helicity and bulk shear and things like that, and CAPE, which is just storm fuel, so to speak. So a lot of that stuff is not there, and that's what it was picking up on. So if anything was going to happen, it's looking like it's coastal, but even that seems incredibly unlikely at this point, which is what the Storm Prediction Center seems to have picked up on when they dropped that down. But you still see that we have that level 1 risk. This is our app. I was going to say, you know, with this pushing in, when we have these conditional events, with especially during summer when things are just really dependent on heating, it's good to have our app. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It is free, but it does give you those warnings if they're issued, and you can check this type of stuff like the radar and the severe overlay and eventually the tropical overlay when we get into hurricane season later on with the rain chances here, which aren't very high, again, until we pass lunchtime. So that's a good thing to have. The good news is that once we finish with this rain, which might last until tomorrow morning, that's supposed to be a 10. I can't get this one to change for some reason because that's supposed to be a 0. Wednesday's looking like a pretty sunny day, which is what's going to lead to almost our first 90 and potentially our first 90-degree day, I believe, at least, of this year. as I have a high of 89 for that day. Clouds start to build back in Thursday, which drops it to 88, and then another rainy one. That's that second rainy day of the week I mentioned at the very beginning, which will take us to Friday, and that one's not looking very significant either. But then once that's done, we'll head into Saturday, and once again, the temperature starts jumping up from that point, and that's going to take us, again, almost, and actually to the 90s as we head into next week. So the humidity, very summer-like pattern. It fluctuates a bit here and there, no major swings either direction. It's basically going to be sticky and borderline oppressive, which is just dew points in the 70s, a measure of your moisture, and very likely leading to some very warm mornings that won't drop below any of those numbers there. So we're definitely not going to have a morning below about 63 degrees at any point for really the next 2 weeks, it seems. Temperatures right here, you can see those going up and up and up. We have a little bit of rain possibly to start us off on Tuesday. Then we jump up to that 89 with the sun coming out, down to 88. And again, we could hit 90 if I'm underestimating that sun. Friday cools us off again, but then we just start marching up. And I believe I have a 10-day forecast at the very end of this, and you can see our first 90 and 91. Again, they are forecasts, so it may not hit it, but I'm pretty likely, and you can see they're picking up on it as well. The temperature outlook for the next 6 to 10 days trending decently above average there, and average for this time of year is about 82 now that we're almost into May. And then you see as we take it into week 2, it doesn't get any better. It's pretty much the same there with another warm spot kind of approaching from the west. So it's definitely going to be on the warm side. Here's the 7-day. Again, I showed you the bar graph a second ago. Here's what it looks like with the sky conditions. That level 1 risk still with us, but not looking especially concerning. Then things will taper off. I have a 10% on there. I don't know why it is refusing to get rid of them in some areas. So not much expected for Tuesday outside of a morning sprinkle, nothing really lasting past sunrise. Then as we head into Sunday, or I said Sunday because it's very sunny, Wednesday, I expect to see quite a bit of sun, at least for the morning and afternoon hours. Then those clouds start moving back in. We'll see those increase into Thursday, and then that'll take us to Friday, which is our next rainy day. And the clouds don't really break up a bit as we head into next week. But we do warm up. And again, I promised you a 10-day here where you could see us working all the way up to next Tuesday when it finally clears out. Hot and sunny there with 2 days at 90 and 91 and a forecast start to your day of 67, which is where we were this morning. And with it being 90 the day before, it would not surprise me if we did not drop out of the 70s there. So I may be underestimating that morning. But that's pretty much all I have for you. Again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I always talk too much anyway when we do these things because I like to explain stuff. But so nothing too serious going on. If you ever want to follow along or shoot me a question, I see lots of good comments here, and I often try to answer my messages as long as it's weather relevant or something like that. That way we can we'll talk on that. You can do Facebook there. Search Ryan Mahan WDAM. And if you are on the Twitter, or some people like to call it, the X now, it's at Ryan Mahan WX, all one word. WX is the abbreviation for weather. Interestingly enough, I've never seen a good explanation for that. So I will go ahead and let you go for the day. For an update on what's going on, you can tune in to midday today. Rex will be there updating on what's going on in case anything's changed. That'll be right around the time they'll start really approaching us. And then from there, again, if you catch our Weather Focus, it's a really cool show, which is about 30 minutes of all weather. It's just on our digital platforms right now. We usually go a little bit more in depth. I add like a national forecast on the beginning of the week to kind of tell people what the next couple of events, or if there was anything big that happened recently nearby, which there were some tornadoes and the plains I'm going to talk about. And then things like the pollen cast, a deep dive into the forecast for Patrick and Rex when they're doing it. So pretty cool stuff there, I would say. But I'm going to let you go for the rest of the day, and be sure to stay weather aware. We don't expect we'll see anything, but as we know, it can try its best. So I will see you guys later, and you guys stay weather aware.